Do you know Michelangelo? Do you know any of his famous creations? Have you heard of the Sistine Chapel? Don't worry, all of these questions will be answered by Art and Beyond. The Italian sculptor, painter, and architect Michelangelo de Lodovico Buonarroti Simoni, from 1475 to 1564, is regarded as one of the Renaissance's most important painters. He was raised in Florence and studied grammar under the humanist Francesco da Urbino. He was born in Caprese, a town in Tuscany close to Arezzo. He started working as Domenico Ghirlandaio's apprentice at the age of 13. When asked for his two top students by Lorenzo de' Medici in 1489, Ghirlandaio, who possessed one of Florence's largest workshops, suggested Michelangelo. In 1496, he agreed to Cardinal Raffaele Riario's invitation to relocate into Rome. He wouldn't come back to Florence until 1499 when the Guild of Wool hired him to finish a monument made of unfinished Carrara marble. David, one of Michelangelo's best-known pieces, was produced here and finished in 1504. 6 days prior to his passing in 1564, Michelangelo finished sculpting the incomplete Rodanini Pieta. He worked non-stop until his death. Since he was such a prolific artist, he is the possibly best documented artist of the 16th century and the only artist whose biography, by Giorgio Vasari, was published while he was still alive. One of Michelangelo's most famous works, the ceiling frescoes in the Sistine Chapel, are also masterpieces of high Renaissance art. Pope Sixtus IV, the chapel's namesake, erected the Sistine Chapel inside the Vatican before the years of 1477 and 1480. Pope Julius II commissioned Michelangelo to paint the ceiling, along with the contributions from other artists including Botticelli and Domenico Ghirlandaio. The ceiling of the Sistine Chapel is painted with 9 passages from the Book of Genesis because the chapel was created to serve as an example of Catholic belief. Michelangelo was initially asked to paint simply the 12 apostles, but he negotiated a grander composition on a larger scale that took him 4 years to complete and had 343 figures in all. Building a platform or scaffold was the top priority. Michelangelo decides to suspend the scaffold with massive ropes after hiring Rome's best scaffold builder. Michelangelo instantly dismisses the notion because it does not sit well with him. Then Michelangelo makes the decision to cut holes into the chapel walls on either side. The scaffold builder thus had a base from which to work from after he took the planks and inserted them into the wall. Michelangelo created 2 arches with curving steps that contoured the ceiling. The floor of the chapel was left free for the Pope thanks to this clever arrangement. They nevertheless hung a sizable piece of fabric beneath the platform since they were aware that dust and debris would be a problem. This also addressed the obstruction of the 60-foot drop from the scaffold, which was another problem. The fact that no one could view the work until it was finished was probably of utmost significance to Michelangelo. Did you know that we have actually invented time travel? All you have to do to go back in time and visit Michelangelo is click the subscribe button. Only joking, of course, but thank you for your continued support. You're going to need a team of helpers if you're ready to paint 150 distinct scenarios utilizing one of the trickiest painting processes ever devised. He finally settles on 4 helpers after helping him after much consideration, and man was he going to need them. Let's briefly go through what a typical day looked like for Team Michelangelo when they were suspended 60 feet above the ground. That's extremely high. To get to the lowest planks, the entire squad had to first descend a 40-foot ladder. After reaching the summit, they would have to climb steps to reach the final 20 feet. During the day, a few tiny windows let light in. However, they also worked at night, and only then were torches used. Going through similar difficult steps, they completed the work. Michelangelo created a special scaffolding that hung from the holes near the ceiling rather than being raised from the floor so that he could paint the ceiling frescoes in the Sistine Chapel. In order to make the composition easier to paint, he separated the ceiling into 2 halves. He applied the usual fresco technique, which depends on the bonding of the image to the wall between damp lime plaster and water-based paints. He worked in daily parts, applying new plaster to the area he was focusing on that day. Now, do you want to know the composition of this? 9 episodes from the Book of Genesis and 5 other images that are backed by 4 naked boys, known as the Ignudi, make up the ceiling frescoes of the Sistine Chapel. 12 men and women who are alleged to have seen the foreseen birth of Jesus Christ are shown in between the events. Christ's forebears are listed and depicted in lists above each window. 8 more groups of biblical characters are shown in the spandrels, and 4 corner pendentives that represent 4 separate biblical stories surround the entire ceiling. The ceiling frescoes in the Sistine Chapel tell the overarching tale of God creating the universe and man, of humanity's fall from grace and punishment, and the birth of Jesus, humanity's savior. In the piece, Michelangelo skillfully integrates Renaissance ideas and humanist thoughts through the religious iconography from the church. The most blatantly non-biblical characters are from the Ignudi. The separation of light and darkness, the creation of the sun, moon, and earth, the division of land and water, the creation of Adam and Eve, the temptation and expulsion, the sacrifices of Noah, the great flood, and Noah's inebriation are the 9 major scenes that are shown. The work has proven a veritable beacon to our art, of inestimable benefit to all painters, bringing light to a world that had been plunged into darkness for centuries. In fact, this work encompasses all imaginable perfection within those themes. So what do you think? Is this topic interesting? Let us know down in the comments, and also remember to give us a thumbs up and click the subscribe button. Thank you for joining, and we'll see you in the next video.